Kakadosh Boker or Masechet Bava Metzia Daf Ein Daled Daf Ein He Amud Aleph 75A1. We're just going to start on the last line on 74B. Tanu Rabbanan. Omer Adam lechavero. A person is permitted to tell his friend, Halveni kor chitin, lend me a kor chitin, right? V'kotzetz lo damim. And he's going to give him an amount of money according to the loan. Huzlu, if it becomes cheaper, he gives him chitin. Hukru, if it becomes more expensive, noten lo demehem. He gives him the money. He's allowed to do that. Okay? So says the Gemara, Valo katzatz. He says, 1 second, but if he put a mechid, why is all of a sudden now he's giving, meaning what? He's deciding which one to give. When he wants, he's going to give the cheaper one. What's going on exactly? So says the Gemara, Rav Shashat, says Rav Shashat, Hachi kamar, this is what I'm saying. Im lo katzatz, if he did not kotzetz, huzlu notel chitav, hukru noten demehem. What does that mean? If he was not kotzetz, the money, huzlu, and then it became cheaper, notel chitav, he's going to take the chitim. Hukru, if it became more expensive, noten demehem, he's going to give the money. Okay, fine. Mishnah on Ein He Amud Aleph 75A, the Mishnah. Lo yomar adam lechavero. A person should not come and say to his friend, Halveni kol chitin v'ani eten lecha lagoren. Lend me today chitin, and I'm going to give you another kul, right? When they're actually doing it in the granary. Why? Because maybe it's going to become more expensive. And then this was a concept that it's kilu, it's like halva, but you're going to get more money out of it. But now it's going to become more expensive. Aval omer lo, but you're allowed to tell him, Halveni ad sheyavo beni, or ad she'emsa mafteach, right? I'm going to lend it to me until my son comes, or until I find the key of my storage house. Hillel says that it's a sur, even if you have the same thing. You're not allowed to do such a thing. Also, Hillel used to say also, Lo talve isha kika lechaverta. Don't lend the loaf of bread to your friend, a woman to her friend. Ad she'ta'aseh damim. You have to make it money. Shema yukru chitin, because maybe it's going to become more expensive. V'nimtzeu ba'ot lider ribit, and then it's going to become ribit. Okay? So again, we're talking about ribit problems. So basically, if I'm going to lend you something, usually I'm going to tell you, listen, lend me your phone. Phone is not going to become more expensive. But fruits, it could go up in price, or anything that goes up in price. So therefore, obviously, it's going to change the halacha. Okay? Until here we're clear? Okay. Says the Gemara. Amar Ravuna, says Ravuna. Yesh lo se'ah, love se'ah, yeah, ve'satayim, love satayim. If he has one se'ah, he can lend out one se'ah. If he has two se'ahs, he can borrow two se'ahs. Meaning when we say se'ah for se'ah, or chitin bechitin, we're talking about you also have to have the same thing. But you have to have the same amount as well. So if I've got, let's say, 1 kilo of potatoes in my house, and I want to borrow from you potatoes, I could only borrow up to 1 kilo. Because that's what I have in my house. If I have 2 kilos, I can borrow 2 kilos from you. If I have 3, and it continues going. I want more. Yeah, no, but the fact that I have it, so therefore it's going to be permitted. Because we said that as long as you have that item, you're permitted to borrow. So Amar Yitzchak says, Afilu yeshlo se'ah, lo ve'aleh kama kudim. He says, no, even if you have 1 kilo, you could borrow 10 kilos. It doesn't have to be the exact amount of what you have in your house. You could borrow whatever you want, as long as you have one. V'tani Ruchia, the Siyul Rabbi Yitzchak. So Rabbi Chia taught a braita in accordance to Rabbi Yitzchak. Tipat yain en lo, tipat shemen en lo, hayesh lo, lo ve'aleh kama tibin. We said that you don't have a drop of wine, or you don't have a drop of oil, but it's mashma that if you have a drop, you can borrow whatever you want. Meaning the second that you have, that's why I told you, remember I said that you're going to borrow shkalim in Eretz, or you're going to borrow dollars in Israel. Now, if you borrow $1 in Israel, today you're borrowing the dollar, and maybe the dollar was only worth shalosh shloshim, 330. Well, no, for sure it's probably no more now. But maybe tomorrow, it's going to be worth 370. So now you have a problem. It's ribit. But I borrowed $1 and I paid you back $1. Yeah, but when you borrowed $1, it was only worth 3 shekel shloshim. Now that you're paying back the $1, it's only worth shalosh shivim. The footnote says the yesod of the eter of yeshlo is that we look at it as if that the makneh is alo ve'lemalveh miyad בשעת הלוואה, שיאת חיטים שלו תחת הסר שלווה ממנו. So כאילו there's no halva here. So if there's no halva, even if the price goes up, it doesn't matter. It's kilo that he already paid him back. He's only got 1 kilo. It doesn't matter. He's got 1 kilo of the same amount, so he's got the same thing. And then afterwards it's it. So okay, so we have to get a little bit more to pay me back. But now you understand why, according to the Shita, you need 5 kilos for 5 kilos. Because then it makes sense. You understand? Because you borrowed 5 and I've got 5 to pay you back. So it's keilu that I already paid you back. Keilu. You understand? But again, according to the other Shita, the second that you have beter, that's it. You have. So now, whenever it is, you'll pay back. But it's not considered, it's like not like a loan. Now says the Gemara, Hillel oser. Hillel says it's a sur seah b'seah. Amar Rav Nachman Shmuel halakha like Hillel. Ve'let ilchatega v'david halakha is not like him, which means we don't pass in that. We don't pass like Hillel, but rather seah b'seah is mutar if you have the same species. So one more time, you want to borrow tomatoes. Make sure you have 1 tomato. Because if you have 1 tomato, you can borrow another 10. You want to borrow kemach. Make sure that you have 1. Whatever it is. Once you have that, you can continue. That's the concept. 1 second. Right? And that's also what Hillel used to say. Lo talve isha. A woman shouldn't lend her friend a kikar. Yes, he says, Amar Rav Yehuda Meshua said to Shmuel. Zot divrei Hillel, these are the words of Hillel. Aval hachamim omrim chachamim say, lovim setam uporim setam. What does that mean? You're going to borrow stam breads without making them into money, and you're going to pay them back stam without making them. That means even if it's going to come up and there's no problem. That's the words of Hillel. Yeah. So he says, those are words of the Chachamim, right? Because the words of Hillel was that it was going to be a sur. Chachamim say you're allowed to. Okay. Ve'amar Rav Yehuda Meshmuel says Rav Yehuda Meshmuel, Bnei Chabura makpidim zalzeh. Do you know the Bnei Chabura? They're going to be makpidim one another. They're not going to be mochalim, even if it's going to be a small amount, right? Ve'ovrim mishum nida mishum mishkal mishum inyan mishum loveh, right? Upodim. So it comes out that he says like this. He says they're going to be makpidim zalzeh, and they're not going to forgive each other, even for a small amount. And then they're going to be ovrim because of their akpada, because of the midah mishkal and minyan, right? And mishum lovim upodim, and then they're going to pay back, right? Ve'biyom tov Hillel, just like the words of Hillel. Even because of the suit of Rabbi as well. Rabbi Shmuel says, Talmidei Chachamim are permitted to lend out with Rabbi. My time, what's the reasoning? Made the yade the Rabbi asur. They know that Rabbi is asur. So therefore, they're just giving a present. And therefore, since they're giving a present, there's no Rabbi involved here. So Amal Shmuel leAvua bar Ihi says Shmuel to Avua bar Ihi al veri mi'ah pilplim mi'ah ve'esrim pilplim varich. He says, imagine right now he comes and he says, pay me back, right? During the time of Piron, you're going to pay me back another 20 pilplim. So imagine, he asked for 100, let's say, peppers, and he has to give him back 120. And it's good to do that, right? Why? Because Kilu, he's giving it to him as a present. He's not giving it to him as a halva'ah. It's even permitted to give them the children, right? The rebit. Why? In order that they taste it. Now, obviously, right, he says that, obviously here we're not talking about that it's really be'emet rebit. It's just ki'ilu that they should taste what it is. Okay? And then velav minti, but it's not true. Mishum dati lemisach, meaning even to your own children, that obviously if you're giving it to your children, you're giving it as a present. You're not giving it as a rebit. Right? Meaning that if you're going to borrow $100 from your son, and then you're going to give him back 120, you're not giving him a rebit. You're giving him a present. You understand? Like, you appreciate it's not interest on what he lent you. But in order shalom ati lemisrach, which means you don't want him to start getting accustomed to lending with a beat, it's a suit to do so. So you're not allowed to do right such a thing whatsoever. You understand? So that's also going to become prohibited. Okay. Mishnah on the bottom of Ayin Amud Aleph, 75a on the bottom. Mishnah. Omer adam lechavero. A person could come and he say, "Nakeshe mi v'ani nakeshe micha." I'm going to come and I'm going to pull out your weeds today, and you're going to pull out my weeds tomorrow, right? Or sorry, you do to me today, and I'm going to do with you tomorrow. Adori mi hayom, you're going to start digging for me today, and I'm going to dig with you tomorrow. And there's no isur of rebit, okay? Even though it could be that it's going to be a more difficult job. Velo yomalo, but he shouldn't say nakeshi mi v'dori micha or adori mi v'nakeshi micha, right? That means basically, if it's another melacha, then no, because sometimes other melacha is a more difficult melacha, and therefore it is like a gan natar. It's like a type of a loan type of thing. Meaning, if it's the same job, So, okay, I'm going to help you out today. You're going to, it could be that tomorrow maybe it's a little bit more difficult. We're not going to, but if it's going to be a completely different melacha, there, yes, it would be a problem. Yeah, continues the Mishnah in Hamud Bet 75b. Kol Yemei Garid, all the summer echad, right? Which means that they're all considered the same, right? So he's allowed to tell him, right? I'm going to do it today. You're going to do it tomorrow. Another day in the summer, it doesn't matter what. Even though it could be that day might be a little bit longer. But remember that the days become longer until the days become longer, not shorter. So he says, all the Yemot Geshamim, lo yomar lo, you shouldn't say, charosh mi bagarid, v'ani charosh micha bereviyah. Why? But since the reviyah is much worse than the melacha, so therefore if it's going to be a completely different time, meaning if it's going to be all one, like the same summer, the same winter, that's fine. But the second is going to be, one is in one season, that's much more difficult. Rabban Gamliel Omer, Rabbi Gamliel says, Yesh Rabbi Mukdemet v'yesh Rabbi Mucheret. It exists a concept of predated rebit, like pre-rebit and after rebit. Case, what's the case? If you want to borrow money, so imagine, I want the loan from David. Yeah, I'm talking about the David on the screen. Yeah, and then what happens? Right? So he comes and he says, right? He gives him a present. He says, I want you to lend me money. So it's called Rabbi Mukdemet. Because they give you a present before the loan. What, right? Lavai menu. He borrows the money and he gives him back the money, and then he gives him a present. And he says, because you gave me the money, that's Rabbi Mucheret. So for you got Rabbi Mukdemet, basically it's like a present kilu, but he says, it wasn't just a present. He says it's a present because you lent me the money. But one of them was before the loan, and one of them is after the loan. Rabbi Shimon says, Yesh Rebit Dvarim. You heard there's Rebit on Devarim. Yeah? He says, Lo yomar lo daki ba ish ploni makom ploni. Right? He comes and he says, don't say, you should know this person is coming from this place. He's coming and he's telling a kilu, he's giving him hana'ah. So he says he wouldn't have lent it to him if he wouldn't have known about it. So therefore that's called Rebit Devarim. Okay? Ve'elu ovrim belo ta'aseh. And these guys are going to be over on a lo ta'aseh. We already learned this. How many people are over on an avera when you lend out with a beat? You got the lender, borrower, the guarantor, and the witnesses. Chachamim say even the sofer, right? Ovrim mishum lo titen, mishum al tikach meito, mishum lo tiye lo kenoshe, mishum lo tismun olav neshech, mishum lifnei vetot mishov yetem elohecha niyashem. So look how many averot are the people going to be over. You have one avera, lo ekaspecha lo titen lo beneshech. You have next avera, al tikach meito neshech v'tabit, lo tiye lo kenoshe, lo tisimun olav neshech, lifnei vetot mishov. 5 averot. Right, for the concept of doing this. There's the Gemara on Amud Bet 75b. The Gemara. Tadim we learned to the brighter. Mishmon Yochai Omer. Mishmon Yochai says, "Minay lanoshe b'chavero maneh ve'eno ragil lagdim lo shalom she'asu lagdim lo shalom." How do we know that if you lend somebody money and you never say hi to him, how do we know that now you're not even allowed to say hi? Imagine I don't even say good morning to you every morning. All of a sudden I borrow money from you. I'm not allowed to say hi to you. It's a sur for me to say hi to you. How do you know that? He says, "Amulomar neshech kol davar asher yishach shafilu dibur az asur." Even dibur you're not allowed to give, but that's becomes a present. Meaning the fact that I never said good morning to you, and all of a sudden now I'm going to say good morning to you, that in itself is already an isur. Ve'elu ovrim. These are the people that are going to be over on lo taseh. Who are the people that are going to be over? Abai says, "Amalveh over bekulam." The lender is over on all 5 averot. Okay, haloveh is going to be over on the lo tashich la'achicha. Ulachicha lo tashich v'lifnei ver. 3 averot. The arev and the edim are only going to be over on lo tesimun olav neshech, on that avera. Okay, so on 1. So one more time. The lender 5 averot, borrower 3 averot, edim 1 avera. Tanya we learned to the Braita. Rabbi Shimon says, "Malveh rebit yoter mima shemarvichim mafsidim." More money, more what they gain, they lose. Velo, not only that. Shemesimim Moshe Rabbeinu haham in Torato emet. But they're going to place Moshe Rabbeinu haham in Torato emet. Omrim lo yavod Moshe Rabbeinu sheyadevach v'davar lo yekotvo. Why? If Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know that it was going to be a gain, obviously you wouldn't have written it. Yata Ravdimi, when Ravdimi came from Eretz Yisrael to Babel, he said, מניין לנושה בחברו מנה, ויודע שאין לו שאסור לעבור לפניו. How do we know that if you know that he doesn't have the money, how do you know you're not allowed to even go in front of him? Which means this. I lent you money. Now you don't have the money to pay up. How do we know that I'm not supposed to come to you and to start showing my face? So I put myself there every single day. That way you see me. Like, remember, you understand? Like, I'm counting money or giving to the car. You know what I'm saying? Like, you understand? What's, so he says, right? Rabbi Ami, Rabbi Yasi, kilu danu mishne danim. What does it mean? They get two different punishments. Right? What does that mean? Yeah, you heard Ba'eshu v'mayim. Right? So they're very important. So he says over here, it's kilu that they're coming the fire and the water. Right? Why? Because the malve is over on these two different things. He says because kilu, the person becomes red, and then it becomes right white. So the red is like the fire, and then the white is like the water. So it means basically the guy becomes embarrassed every single time. He sees you, he's like, he knows he has to pay him back money, and he just doesn't have the money. Amar Rav Yudah Rav says Rav, anybody that has money and he lends out money without witnesses, he's over on lifnei ved. Why? Because you don't want that afterwards he's going to come and say, no, that I didn't lend it out, that this, that. That's already lifnei ved. He's putting a stumbling block. He's causing the curse to himself. What does that mean? He's basically causing that the guy will come and he's going to be kofir, so they're going to curse him. So because of that, he brings a curse on himself. He shouldn't do these things.
What's this?
Amru le Rabbanan Ravashi. Says Rabbanan to Ravashi. Kamekaim Ravina Koma Ravina was medactek to be mekayim everything the rabbi said. Shalach le behade panya demal Shabbat. He once came on Shekiah Rever Shabbat. Lishta limar asara zuzen. He wanted to borrow 10 zuz. That he wanted to buy a small karka. Shalachle, he sent him 90 more sad, bring witnesses. And write the shtar. Shalachle, he says, Afilu ananami. He says, I'm also could be kofer. Shalachle, he says, Kolshke more the tarbi gisem you're going to forget the goren klala latzmi, and I'm going to cause a klala to me. Meaning he was trying to say, right, that what? That even if you're going to prohibit stam anashim without witnesses, he said, Kolshke even to the rabbi. Why? Because he says, that since you're busy with your studies, you might not even realize, you might even forget. Meaning somebody, because he was saying, what, you're suspecting me that I'm not going to pay you back? And he says, yes. Because since you're so much in your learning, you forget what was going on. So Kilu, you thought you paid back, and really, you didn't even pay back. We learned in the Braita, there are 3 people that they scream in Bedin, right? And nobody, Bedin don't even help them. Who are those people? If you come and you lend out money without witnesses. Number 2, if you acquire a master to yourself. The Gemara is going to explain. Yeah, and your wife controls you. You heard, your wife controls you? Nada. What is the case of konei adon latzmo? If you're going to sell it to the nochri, which means, right, that you tell the money that you're using, in order the people that meaning you're going to say the money belongs to a goy, in order the people shouldn't say that you're rich, meaning it's not your money. And then all of a sudden the goy hears about it and he comes and he takes it away from you. So listen, you put your mouth in the lion's den. It's your fault. Yeah, the other people say this is very, very important. Never write your property to your children in your lifetime. Your children will take it. They'll send you to an old age home like an old geezer. And kaddish, you lose everything. Yeah, make sure you never write everything to your children during your lifetime. That's what's Gemara Mefurashet. You just heard it.
You can write to the children, but not everything.
Well, yeah, but make sure that it's not during the lifetimes. That way the parent still has it. You don't know how many times this happened. That people, they come, they give everything to the children. They're already old. And then the children take everything and they just leave them with nothing. Miskenim. There are those that say also, the bish la behamata. Right? Somebody that's bad in this, meaning he's not matzliach in the city, velo azi lemata acharita, and he doesn't go to another city. So therefore, since he's not going to another city, so therefore that in itself, what do you want? If he has bad mazal, go to another place. And if he doesn't go to another place, tough luck on him. Hadran Allah, ezu neshech, and we'll start the next perek tomorrow.